Top 10 Mysterious Viruses 2018, 10. Yellow fever. The yellow fever virus is transmitted by the bite of female mosquitoes, the yellow fever mosquito, Aedes aegypti, and other species, and is found in tropical and subtropical areas in South America and Africa, but not in Asia. The only known hosts of the virus are primates and several species of mosquito. The origin of the disease is most likely to be Africa, from where it was introduced to South America through the slave trade in the 16th century. Since the 17th century, several major epidemics of the disease have been recorded in the Americas, Africa, and Europe. In the 19th century, yellow fever was deemed one of the most dangerous infectious diseases. 9. Human papillomavirus. Human papillomavirus, HPV, is a virus from the papillomavirus family that is capable of infecting humans. Like all papillomaviruses, HPVs establish productive infections only in keratinocytes of the skin or mucous membranes. While the majority of the nearly 200 known types of HPV cause no symptoms in most people, some types can cause warts, verrucae, while others can, in a minority of cases, lead to cancers of the cervix, vulva, vagina, and anus in women or cancers of the anus and penis in men. It can also cause cancers of the head and neck, tongue, tonsils and throat. Recently, HPV has been linked with an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. More than 30 to 40 types of HPV are typically transmitted through sexual contact and infect the anogenital region. Some sexually transmitted HPV types may cause genital warts. Persistent infection with high-risk HPV types different from the ones that cause skin warts may progress to precancerous lesions and invasive cancer. HPV infection is a cause of nearly all cases of cervical cancer. However, most infections with these types do not cause disease. 8. Influenza. No virus can claim credit for more worldwide pandemics and scares than influenza. The outbreak of the Spanish flu in 1918 is generally considered to be one of the worst pandemics in human history, infecting 20 to 40% of the world's population and killing 50 million in the span of just 2 years. A reconstruction of that virus is above. The swine flu was its most recent newsmaker, when the 2009 pandemic may have seen as many as 89 million people infected worldwide. 7. Dengue. The leading cause of death in the tropics and subtropics is the infection brought on by the dengue virus, which causes a high fever, severe headache, and, in the worst cases, hemorrhaging. The good news is that it's treatable and not contagious. The bad news is there's no vaccine, and you can get it easily from the bite of an infected mosquito, which puts at least a third of the world's human population at risk. The CDC estimates that there are over 100 million cases of dengue fever each year. It's a great marketing tool for bug spray. 6. Smallpox. The virus that causes smallpox wiped out hundreds of millions of people worldwide over thousands of years. We can't even blame it on animals either, as the virus is only carried by and contagious for humans. There are several different types of smallpox disease that result from an infection ranging from mild to fatal, but it is generally marked by a fever, rash, and blistering, oozing pustules that develop on the skin. Fortunately, smallpox was declared eradicated in 1979, as the result of successful worldwide implementation of the vaccine. 5. Rabies. Rabies has a long and storied history dating back to 2300 BC, with records of Babylonians who went mad and died after being bitten by dogs. While this virus itself is a beast, the sickness it causes is now as wholly preventable if treated immediately with a series of vaccinations, sometimes delivered with a terrifyingly huge needle in the abdomen. We have vaccine inventor Louis Pasteur to thank for that. Exposure to rabies these days, while rare in the US, still occurs as it did thousands of years ago, through bites from infected animals. If left untreated after exposure, the virus attacks the central nervous system and death usually results. The symptoms of an advanced infection include delirium, hallucinations and raging, violent behavior in some cases, which some have argued makes rabies eerily similar to zombification. If rabies ever became airborne, We might actually have to prepare for that zombie apocalypse after all. 4. Lassa. This BSL-4 virus gives us yet another reason to avoid rodents. Lassa is carried by a species of rat in West Africa called Mastomys. It's airborne. At least when you're hanging around the rat's fecal matter. Humans, however, can only spread it through direct contact with bodily secretions. Lassa fever, which has a 15 to 20% mortality rate, causes about 5,000 deaths a year in West Africa, particularly in Sierra Leone and Liberia. It starts with a fever and some red rosternal pain behind the chest, and can progress to facial swelling, encephalitis, mucosal bleeding and deafness. Fortunately, researchers and medical professionals have found some success in treating Lassa fever with an antiviral drug in the early stages of the disease. 3. Hantavirus. There are many strains of hantavirus floating around. Yep, it's airborne, in the wake of rodents that carry the virus. Different strains, carried by different rodent species, are known to cause different types of illnesses in humans, most notably hemorrhagic fever with renal syndrome, HFRS first discovered during the Korean War, and hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, HPS, which reared its ugly head with a 1993 outbreak in the southwestern United States. Severe HFRS causes acute kidney failure, while HPS gets you by filling your lungs with fluid, edema. HFRS has a mortality rate of 1 to 15%, while HPS is 38%. The U.S. saw its most recent outbreak of hantavirus, of the HPS variety, at Yosemite National Park in late 2012. 2. Marburg. In 1967, a group of lab workers in Germany, Marburg and Frankfurt, and Serbia, then Yugoslavia, contracted a new type of hemorrhagic fever from some virus-carrying African green monkeys that had been imported for research and development of polio vaccines. The Marburg virus is also BSL-4, and Marburg hemorrhagic fever has a 23 to 90% fatality rate. Spread through close human-to-human contact, symptoms start with a headache, fever, and a rash on the trunk, and progress to multiple organ failure and massive internal bleeding. There is no cure, and the latest cases were reported out of Uganda at the end of 2012. An American tourist who had explored a Ugandan cave full of fruit bats known to be reservoirs of the virus contracted it and survived in 2008. But not before bringing his sick self back to the U.S. 1. Ebola. Its melodic moniker may roll off the tongue, but if you contract the virus, above, that's not the only thing that will roll off one of your body parts, a disturbing amount of blood coming out of your eyes, for instance. 4 of the 5 known Ebola viral strains cause Ebola hemorrhagic fever, EHF, which has killed thousands of people in sub-Saharan African nations since its discovery in 1976. The deadly virus is named after the Ebola River in the Democratic Republic of the Congo where it was first reported, and is classified as a CDC Biosafety Level 4, aka BSL-4, making it one of the most dangerous pathogens on the planet. It is thought to spread through close contact with bodily secretions. EHF has a 50 to 90% mortality rate, with a rapid onset of symptoms that start with a headache and sore throat and progress to major internal and external bleeding and multiple organ failure. There's no known cure, and the most recent cases were reported at the end of 2012 in Uganda.